Hello, everyone, and welcome to thoughtbot Open Summit 2024. It's a pleasure to have you. We've got a lot planned for you today. And before we get started, we are having a raffle. So let me find the comments box here. If you'd like to win a free t-shirt at the end of the summit today, please enter your details in the form. I've just posted a link to that. And yes, it's really, really great to have you. Feel free to let us know where you're joining in from. And if you are joining in, if you're rewatching the stream, we hope that you'll be able to access the link in time to get a shirt. But if not, it's still a pleasure to have you. So let's get started. My name is Silumesii Maboshe, currently in Lusaka, Zambia. The photo that you have with the bridge is actually a photo from our Victoria Falls. So it's a bridge between Zambia and Zimbabwe. So I've got a lot of different agendas for this particular presentation, and one of them is to hopefully encourage people to visit Zambia. But it's great to have you, and we're really excited to get things started. So again, my name is Silumesii Maboshe. I'm a software developer here at thoughtbot, but for the sake of our presentation today, you can call me Uncle Messi, for reasons that will become clear in a few minutes. So the talk for today is I'll be talking about bridging the gap with the next generation. Bridging the gap with the next generation. All right. So I have a niece. My niece is 9 years old. She's a swimmer. She's a musician. She's an actor. She's a creator. She's an artist. She's an all-around brilliant human being. And she calls me Uncle Messi. And she asks a lot of really, really brilliant questions. But one question she has not yet asked, I guess this is not important for her at 9 years old. She's never asked what I do at work or what I do as my career, and some of the things that I do in open source. So some of the things that I do is I'm one of the maintainers for Upcase. I'm also one of the maintainers for FactoryBot and FactoryBot Rails. And these are open source projects. And in a sense, there's a lot of backstory that comes to being able to present, being able to contribute to an open source project. And so kind of the journey on how to get there is sometimes intimidating, sometimes scary. So I was thinking about how would I explain this, some of the things that go into open source to my 9-year-old niece. So being 9 years old, she's very, very creative, and she has an amazing imagination. So I would make a game out of it, and we would jump into a time machine. So we jump into our DeLorean and go back to 1994. And in 1994, Nirvana was hitting the charts, Mariah Carey, All for One, Boys to Men, movies like Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction, which she probably wouldn't be interested in, but I think she'd be interested in The Lion King. And then we've got Friends, ER, the Sony PlayStation was released in 1994. There was the FIFA World Cup. It was an amazing year. I think 1994 worked really, really, really hard. And on the open source side, thoughtbot doesn't even exist at this point in time. Ruby doesn't exist either, and Rails doesn't exist. And I'm a big Rails fan. I'm a huge Ruby fan. I've been developing in Ruby for several years now. But great things were happening in open source in 1994. So the Linux kernel, if you use Linux as your operating system, Linux hit 1.0, FreeBSD hit 2.0, and we were using Netscape Navigator to navigate the web. CVS was our choice for version control. I think CVS, that stood for Concurrent Versioning System, and Red Hat was founded. Red Hat was really important for me because I got my start on Red Hat 5. So this was 1994, and the internet was very, very new. We were using Usenet, we were using email, we were using IRC, we were using FTP. And the term open source hadn't even been coined yet. This was how early it was in the evolution of the internet and the world as we know it. So from 1994, I would jump 10 more years and try to explain to my niece that we don't have much time, and I'm sure you want to play a lot. So we're quickly going to go through many, many years of internet history, and hopefully I'll try to explain what I do as my work. So we'll jump to 2004. So in 2004, we have Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is in cinemas. We've got Shrek 2, we've got The Incredibles, we've got Spider-Man 2, and I think you would really enjoy all of these movies. Usher is hitting the charts. You've got Green Day, Britney Spears, Janet Jackson are all making headlines. Incidentally, Lost and Desperate Housewives are making their premiere, and Friends has been around for 10 years. On the video game scene, we've got World of Warcraft has launched, Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, and then in popular media, social media, Facebook has launched as well, and Google has gone public, and Gmail has launched, and Gmail is offering 1 gigabyte of free storage. 1 gigabyte of free storage might not even be the size of a 4K movie nowadays. But we have the Olympics as well. And then what's happening in open source in 2004? So in 2004, thoughtbot is 1 year old. Congratulations, Chad. Ruby has hit 1.8, and Rails hasn't yet been released to the public. It's pre 1.0, but the team at 37 Signals is currently working on Rails. Firefox is at 1.0, and the first version of Ubuntu has been released. This is 4.1. MySQL has been released, and if you're familiar with the LAMP stack, this is what we're currently using. And Subversion. Subversion is slowly starting to overtake CVS in terms of popularity. And SourceForge is now the hub for open source projects. So open source as a phrase has entered the common understanding, and people are starting to blog. We're using forums, we're using wikis. I think at this point in time, we're slowly moving away from IRC, even though that's still very, very important, or like a useful way of communicating with people. So 2004, we've jumped 10 years, and we've seen a lot of progress happening in open source. We are seeing new languages coming onto the scene. We're starting to use different ways of communicating. And because of that, the way that we build our open source is evolving as well. So again, I would invite my niece to jump back into the time machine with me, and we're going to go forward another 10 years. And if you've noticed the photos that I've been sharing, these are all photos from Zambia. Incidentally, the one that I was showing just before, that's one of the ones I took on Unsplash. So yeah, again, hopefully this is encouraging you, or at least making you curious about Zambia as well as open source. Right, so let's jump to 2014. So 2014 wasn't that long ago. Guardians of the Galaxy is in cinemas. The Lego movie has just hit. We're watching Big Hero 6 in cinemas as well. And there's How to Train Your Dragon 2. The concept of a selfie is becoming very, very popular. And people are using selfie sticks as well to take pictures of themselves. Flappy Bird is a phenomenon. I unfortunately never got into Flappy Bird, but Flappy Bird now exists. The FIFA World Cup is happening in Brazil, and binging Netflix has become a thing. So what's happening in the world of open source in 2014? So React is gaining popularity. Thoughtbot is 11 years old. Ruby 2.1 has been released. Rails 4.2 has been released, and there's been an incredible journey of getting to 4.2, because there was a fork round about Rails 3, and there was, I guess, the potential to have 2 versions of this thing that we now call Rails. There was a fork called MERB and Rails as well. And around this time, I guess, just coming into this year, the two forks decided to merge again and just be called Rails. So getting to Rails 4.2 is a significant milestone for open source and the Rails community and the Ruby community as well. Docker is gaining popularity. Kubernetes is a new thing that's just been introduced, and containerization is becoming a thing. So our applications are getting to the scale that it now becomes important for us to see. It now becomes important for us to be able to manage all of this infrastructure we have. Swift has been introduced. Node.js and IO.js has become a fork. And I remember at this particular moment in time, I was on the IO.js side of things. I guess things change. A similar story to Merb and Ruby. The two forks get merged back into each other. And Elasticsearch is growing. So being able to search within applications is becoming important. And as you can see, open source is contributing to the kinds of applications that we're able to build and the things that we're trying to be able to do with them. Not on the slide that you can see at the moment, but important to add in to the conversation as well, is that the front-end frameworks are becoming a thing. So React was launched in 2023 and is gaining popularity. We also have Vue.js becoming something that we're beginning to use on the front end. Bootstrap is very mature. So Bootstrap is now at version 3, and Foundation is the one that I used to use quite a lot. Foundation has now hit version 5. And Backbone, which I had never used a whole lot, is now at version 1.1.0 or something like this. And AngularJS is another very, very popular framework that we're beginning to use. And then on the hosting side, so I talked about how 10 years before we were on SourceForge, but now GitHub is very well established and, in a sense, the leading platform for where people are hosting their Git repositories. So this is a significant moment in time for us, 2014. And I would invite my niece, who might be very, very bored at this time because I'm talking about a lot of technical things that she might not understand. I would invite her back into the time machine so that we can jump forward another 10 years. So we'll be coming back to present day 2024. Okay, so in 2024, we'd be thinking about what the last 30 years now of open source has given us. What has it been able to build for us? What kind of software developers have we been able to create? So 2024, thoughtbot is 21 years old, and we're hosting an open summit. This is the first time we've ever done something like this, but we've wanted to for a very, very, very long time. Ruby is now at version 3.3.5, and I think 3.6. We're currently in October, so 3.3.6 is around the corner. Rails stable is at 7.2.1.2, and Rails 8 has been introduced. And at this point, I'm sure my niece is very, very, very bored. So I think I would let her get out of the time machine and go out and play with her younger sister. But looking at the 30 years, and I'm sure you can see this with me, that it's very, very hard to be able to articulate to someone who doesn't have a background in software and open source already, the kinds of things that we do, the kinds of things that we've been able to do. So being able to use metaphor and things like that is very, very powerful, and I think it's going to be very, very important. And it kind of leads me into questions around, are there things that we can be doing better, doing well, in terms of introducing people to open source for the very, very first time? My niece is, as I said earlier, my niece is 9. And I'm trying to think about what it would be like for her to contribute to open source in, say, another 10 years. when I was learning to program, one of the things that was important for me, in a sense, that helped me leapfrog into software development was, and it has nothing to do with open source at all, but was learning to type. And the physical keyboard was an important thing. So I started learning on QWERTY, and after reading about different keyboard layouts, switched over to Cormac, and that's helped me to be a better typer. Also, and it's not even mentioned explicitly, but the English language seems to dominate how we communicate and how we write documentation, how we write comments, how we contribute to pull requests and merge requests online. So having strength in the spoken language and being able to communicate is important as well. So I'm trying to imagine what it would be like for my niece in 10 years' time. Should I be thinking about the next 10 years when I'm contributing today on an open source project? I don't know. Should I be thinking about the task that I have at hand? Maybe that's the best use of my time, because it can be intimidating just to join an open source project in the first place. So lots and lots of questions. Are there things that we can do to make it easier for people to join open source? Also, we're coming out of a pandemic, so that completely disrupted how we collaborate and think of online collaboration. Once upon a time, I guess I would be talking to my niece and saying, don't talk to strangers, and that would be in person. But now she's been introduced to mobile phones and things like this, and I'm not sure if it's as easy to police how to stay away from people who we don't necessarily know online. And possibly, I'm not sure if it translates as easily from in-person to virtual. Again, lots and lots of questions that I don't really have answers to. And you'll notice from a lot of open source projects that we've seen as we were looking through the 10 years, a lot of people are introduced to open source through school or through university or through their work. And that has largely been because as we've come through this journey, the schools and workplaces have been the places where it was easiest to access the internet. But now the internet is in our pockets. It's on our mobile phones. It's in our connected devices. So what does that look like for a future where everything and possibly everyone is connected? And also, does that disadvantage places, Zambia being one, where the internet is not as accessible, not as easily reachable for a big majority of people? Does it even make sense for us to be expecting people who don't have access to the internet to contribute to open source? Again, lots and lots of questions that I don't necessarily have answers to. So now maybe it might make sense for us to make a personal journey. We're going to jump 10 years into the future. So the year is 2035. I have no idea who is making the charts. I'm not sure if we're even watching movies at this point. Probably everyone has a headset. If Apple and Meta have anything to say about this. And maybe we're not even meeting in physical spaces anymore. Maybe everything's happening in the metaverse. So what does open source look like in this kind of a world? Does it matter what language we use? Does it matter what programming languages we're using? Is AI so advanced that I can type in my own language and it does the translation for us? So do I have a personal agent that's able to do translation for us? And what kind of applications is open source helping us to build? What kind of problems is it helping us to solve? I see it as a very, very exciting future. I think, again, it can be intimidating, especially if you're joining open source for the very, very first time. And I'm hoping that there are many of you on the call that are looking to contribute to open source for the very, very first time. And then for the veterans, what does this look like for you? Are there ways that we can make interacting with our projects easier? I heard a really good thought from Rails World last year, which kind of says if your project is not allowing new people to join it, then it's destined to have a very, very short shelf life. And also, you have noticed that as we were looking at open source, many projects that started don't exist anymore. So does it make sense? What kinds of projects do we not contribute to anymore? What projects have started and are new? And again, not many answers, but I see a bright future. So this photo here is, again, another one from Zambia, and on a motorbike into the sunset. So I'm hoping that the few things that I've been able to share, again, this has not been a technical talk, so just a bit of imagination and introspection and reflection. I am very, very excited about where we're going to be going, not just today for the Open Summit, but for the next 10 years of what we're going to be building, the technologies that we're going to be using. So with that, I'll say thank you so much for your time. I'm hoping this has stirred you to, if you haven't already joined a project, to join in on one of them. And if you are a veteran, hopefully you are thinking about what are some of the ways that we can make it easier for more people to be joining our projects. So again, thank you so much. I'm hoping you have an incredible day with us on Open Summit, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great one.